once again with the Think Fitness Life podcast, episode 20. We're going to talk about fasting. Really important topic. I'm really excited to be talking about this with you guys. If this is your first time listening, quick reminder, quick introduction here. My name is Matt Gluckman, and with me is Michael Urso and Eric Menchie. They're two brilliant trainers I had a wonderful opportunity to work with, and I just kind of pieced things together, wanted to bring all this information together, wanted to bring these smart minds together in a forum where we could blast this information out to people and empower the people to live healthier, stronger versions of yourself. So let's hop right into it. We have a couple announcements before we talk about fasting. Also, real quick, feel free to write in an email, comment, question, complaint, if you will. thinkfitnesslife@gmail.com, all one word, thinkfitnesslife@gmail.com. If you like what you hear, give us a subscribe, give us a review. We appreciate your feedback. Mike, what do you got for us?
Yeah, so just today, I was reading an article that came out, and you guys drink coffee?
Yes, every morning.
Yes, I do as well. How many cups
Just one.
would you say? Just
Just
one?
one.
Eric? One. I'm about, I would say, 2 to 3. So it looks like I potentially may
I
live
could have
longer than you
guessed that
guys.
probably.
I may live longer than you guys. So this study that came out, it was an observational study. It's done over a 10-year period. And it comes to be that coffee may actually prolong your life. And it doesn't really matter if you're drinking decaf, instant, caffeinated. The research shows that it didn't really matter. It was just so it's not in the caffeine, but it's coffee itself. And this should,
Interesting.
yeah, it should be pretty reassuring for people who do drink a lot of coffee. Now, what it essentially said that the people who drank 8 or more cups of coffee a day, which to me is like
What?
mind-boggling. So
I wouldn't be able to go to sleep at
right?
night.
So listen, over that 10-year study, those people who drank 8 or more cups of coffee had a 14% lower risk of dying. But the sweet spot seems to be that 6 to 7 cups a day, which your risk was cut by 16%. They kind of looked at the way that people metabolize caffeine, whether it's slowly or quickly. Um, and essentially, it didn't really make a difference between what kind of coffee, decaf, whatever it was. And they think it contributes to, essentially that there's somewhere around 1,000 different botanical compounds that are in coffee. Some of the more predominant ones, folic acid and potassium, that have that effect on the body. So, really reassuring for those heavy coffee. I mean, for me, 6 to 7 in a day, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. I don't know about
that's
you
a
guys,
lot.
but yeah. But
I would have to get all those 6 to 7 cups in before
yeah,
12 o'clock or like 1 o'clock, and then I could sleep at night. But that means I'd be off the
yeah,
wall
yeah.
in the
I mean,
morning.
and interesting. This is an observational study. We
Um,
don't know what else.
I was just gonna say, I have one limitation that makes me think of is I would see somebody who has that much coffee as a real go-getter, someone who's very active, and someone who doesn't drink coffee at all might be a little bit more
Yeah, yeah.
complacent.
Well, so
That'd be my only thoughts. It's
just
more of
some
an
more
observational
information.
study.
It was 500,000 people. It was a British study. So 500,000 people over 10 years, they followed up with these people, and more than 14,000 people died. But they said essentially the overarching theme was those who drank the most coffee, they were less likely to die. So I just thought that was interesting. I mean, you're talking like
Interesting.
6 to 9 cups is like that average range, decreasing your potential of dying. I mean, I don't know. it's it's interesting. It's interesting.
It's up
That's
there.
a lot.
I wonder, are they getting all of those nutrients from the 6 to 9, or what their other diet looks like
Yeah,
too? Like
great
Matt was
point.
saying.
And I think like and like I said, it's not the caffeine. So I mean, think about the people who drink like those Rockstar energy drinks or Monsters or Red Bulls. So it has nothing to do with the caffeine. Like those people are probably not going to live very long. But coffee, because the coffee beans themselves have so many different botanical compounds. I just think that there's the
And I
antioxidants and
think,
all the enriched nutrients that
yeah,
come in that.
because they just think like caffeine in coffee and it's black, but they forget about all the other nutrients and, like you said, antioxidants in the coffee that are like tenfold
Right.
better than the caffeine itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, are there flavonoids or something in coffee, or is that
I don't know.
wrong?
For
Or maybe
me,
more in
the
tea.
I don't think this is a reason just because it's like there's these potentially. It's not a reason to start drinking 8 to 9
Right,
cups of coffee.
antioxidant,
You know?
antioxidants.
No,
No way.
No, I
no.
couldn't. I wouldn't be able to function. But I guess if you could just decaf or do like a heavier roasted bean to get the caffeine out and still get the
Yeah,
health benefits
true.
of the antioxidants from it. That's interesting though. Well, my announcement is kind of along the lines of the prolonging your life. Um, I know I'm gonna butcher the name of this, but the phenomenon autophagy. How do you say it, Mike?
Autophagy. Yeah.
Autophagy. AUTOPHAGY.
I like
Getting
phagy. I
Fiji
can
with
get
it.
along with that too.
Just just try to pronounce it, sound it out to myself until I say it out loud in front of other people, and I'm like, that is wrong. But yeah, so autophagy, a huge benefit and reason behind fasting and extended periods of fasting. We'll get into it later, so it's a perfect announcement because this just came out a couple days ago on Dr. McCullough's site. But she's a great resource if anyone has any um, interest in nutrition specifically, and maybe you have gut issues or anything like that. This guy, Dr. Mercola, Mercola. He's a brilliant guy. But they talk about how this phenomenon happens when you are in a fasted state, and essentially it's like survival of the fittest on the cellular level. Your body starts eliminating some of the damaged or sick cells by consuming them, and then it um, sends the valuable resources or the limited resources, which it feels like it's in a limited resource state, to your healthier cells and makes them stronger. And so they're talking about how this autophagy is now actually being considered for disease treatment because they've seen it in so many effective measures for um, neurodegenerative diseases, so, or as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, but even some other ones as well. And personally, I've seen a lot of, we'll say, yeah, benefits. I don't even know a better word right now. To fasting for ulcerative colitis. So you have ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease or any other disease in general, really, or autoimmune dysfunction. Let's definitely listen to this episode and research fasting afterwards because it'll definitely be a viable treatment option for you.
But he is not a doctor, just so you know.
I like it. And
Um, I'm not a doctor, but I'm referring you to this Dr. Mercola, and you can look up fasting for yourself.
Just gotta throw that disclaimer out there, Matt. Wouldn't want to see. We wouldn't want to lose you to the criminal justice system.
No, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, he said this.
No, they can sue away. I don't care. I've definitely worded it well enough, like a politician would. But another study that came out this year actually was how fasting for 24 hours boosts the regeneration of your own stem cells. So if you're thinking about just in a fasted state, not consuming anything for 24 hours, you are forcing your body to get rid of the sick and dying cells. We see evidence for that. It takes the resources it does have and it sends them to or proliferates your healthier cells. And now you're producing some of the youngest, most adaptable cells in your body, your stem cells. And specifically, this study talks about in your intestines, which is going to improve eating next, your metabolism. So, those are the two main benefits I want to talk about today. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about these studies, and how does fasting play a role into your lives or your training?
Well, for me, that makes a ton of sense. I mean, the one you just talked about, and partially because I have experienced it myself. So like you, Matt, I have a autoimmune disease by the name of eczema, and it has wreaked havoc on me in the past. Any kind of cold, damp weather, environmental factors can trigger it. Dairy can trigger it, and I just get flare ups. I get this cracked, burning skin on my hands in different areas like my knees, and I've found that intermittent fasting works really well for it. And I think this is something I may have spoke on in the past in the previous podcasts, but our digestive system takes about 25% of our energy, um, to be able to process food and to digest it through our system, and the brain, as we know, takes another 25%. So just your brain plus, your brain's always going, so 25% is pretty much like that's reserved for the brain's energy. But the digestive process, as it's going on, it's robbing you of a lot of energy that would be required for those cells to turn over, stem cell regeneration, autophagy, like you said. So it makes complete sense to me. I mean, I'm just speaking from a pure anecdotal basis, but it makes complete sense to me how not having to digest or consume and then digest any type of food allows your body to utilize all those extra energetic resources to be able to repair itself and be able to repair skin and be able to heal your gut, because you're not essentially poisoning it with bad foods. And then conversely to that, though, eating good healthy foods can help heal the gut as well. But fasting in itself, it's that energy trade off that you get. You get that energy back to utilize towards like skin cells turning over, hair follicles, all those things. Your entire body can kind of repair and restore itself.
Yeah, and I think a huge benefit to letting it repair is it improves. It gets better for the next time it has to work again. Just think about like your muscles. If you just kept working out 3 times a day, every single day, throughout the week, eventually just it wouldn't give your body enough time to repair, and you'd just be constantly breaking it down. That's kind of a good analogy because your takes like 3 hours for food to clear your small intestine. So, like you said, using all that energy in up to 3 hours. So you're doing that 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, 7 days a week, just kind of indefinitely. All the energy used for digestion and all the breakdown and not and lack of repair of tissue without any of that period of time where it can repair itself and get better. But out of curiosity, with your eczema, did sugar ever play a role, like maybe early on, or like maybe amounts of sugar or anything like that?
I haven't really paid attention to that. The sugar, I don't consume a whole ton to begin with, so it would be harder, I guess, to monitor. I don't, I drink coffee, but I don't drink sugar in it. So, and that's really the only added sugar that I would put into anything if I ever did, but I don't. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if sugar plays a huge role. I, I, I dairy for sure.
But definitely dairy, definitely dairy. What about like red meat? Like too much red meat?
Well, dairy for sure, but because lactose is a sugar, right? It's a milk sugar, right? It's a milk sugar, and I also when I was a kid, I had I had an allergy to cow's milk, so I would flare up. I would get really really bad eczema
There's a
from it,
sugar,
to a
right?
point where my
Exactly,
mom
right.
actually had to search out goat's milk, which wasn't as let's say like
Ooh.
easy to find as it is today. The goat's milk is it breaks down easier. You're able to digest those milk proteins better. That helped, but it didn't cure it all. And I do find that the dairy is one thing. Now, that being said, what does agree
Yeah.
with me and is fine is any kind of fermented dairy. So, for example, I like Siggy's Icelandic yogurt because of the fermented and the bacteria that's in it is actually really good for my gut. Um, I can't eat regular like Dannon, regular yogurt because that's all sugar anyway. But if I eat like a high fat, high protein yogurt with, not a whole lot of carbs, I think
Hmm.
the
Right.
Siggy's has fruit pectin and stevia sweetening in it, and that seems to fare pretty well with me. And the bacteria, of course, is not upsetting to my gut or flaring of it results in a flaring of my eczema either.
And that bacteria in the yogurt almost help your gut.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, in fact, it does. Yeah, I feel a difference for sure.
it's funny 'cause we're pretty similar in the fact that we both have right autoimmune diseases that
Right.
result in inflammation, and yours is just in different areas. Um, and essentially, our bodies can't control that inflammation response, and it gets out of control. But part of that too is not only because I completely agree with like watching what you eat and don't eat a lot of high inflammatory foods, probably for both of our cases. But at the same time, it's also about the way that our body can accept what's put in it. You're talking about having a dairy sensitivity. It's usually because of the lack of enzyme. An enzyme that we specifically have greatly drops off, and lactase, yeah, is one of them that just greatly or dramatically drops off in production. That's why a lot of people are lactose intolerant.
Yeah, and certain different ethnic races and things I know have specific issues with it too. And I don't know if that's a genetic composition or what, but I know that I've heard of that in the past as well.
It like the human system is not built for what's it after the age of 2 or like 1.5, 2. Like we're not built to be eating a lot of dairy or milk, so I can see where that enzyme's just gonna fall off. But people consume it all throughout life, and it's like no wonder we have issues.
Think about this. So, what is milk, or cow's milk more specifically? It is a secreted hormone of a bovine animal, right? But we are the only species that drinks milk from another species, if you think about it. So,
Yeah,
there's something that's a little bit off on that, or you would think that there's going to be something that's off because of that.
Clearly, we shouldn't be consuming it past a certain age, and our body's trying to tell us something. Our environment's trying to give us feedback, and we just we just try
and we
to
don't listen. We never
steamroll
listen.
right past it.
But speaking on the terms of not listening, Matt, I want to kind of
Yeah.
get back to you. Like, think hundreds of years ago when we
Mm.
used to be hunter gatherers. When we used to go through that pattern and people don't have food readily available, what kind of thought process do you go through when you fast that kind of is similar to that? When you know that your next meal is not
Kind of
coming
that same
for 20
that
hours.
that same kind of that same um thought process. Seriously, just like I know, what how many years ago you say? Right.
Yeah.
So you're talking like really far back. I'll even consider 60 years ago, 50 years ago, 70 years ago, anywhere in that range.
Well, I think he's talking about before the agricultural era.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, I think even after the agricultural era,
Oh yeah.
it was still a luxury to eat 3 meals a day. But I see what you're saying, and I completely agree with you. Like that's kind of how I eat and consume things. Is when I eat, it's a shortened eating window, and it's like now it's I at least do it every single day, and I'm only eating from maybe a 2 or 3 hour window, and I might have essentially 3 dinners in that window. But throughout the time that I'm not eating, it's not a problem, and I'm working out. I'm outside with my dog. Or I might be running around. I might be playing a pickup soccer game. My performance doesn't falter. If I really wanted it to falter, I would say and make that excuse that my performance is going to falter because I'm fasting. But your body will adapt because it's done this before. It's had to perform. It's had to be able to outrun something that's going to kill it when it's only eaten in the past maybe month. It just
Well, we haven't specifically, but I think I understand what you're saying. Like we have a million-year-old brain. The brain hasn't adapted that fast. Like we've adapted to our environments and via epigenetics, I think that we have adapted to be able to survive and be able to live out our life.
yeah, we have the capacity.
Yeah, but I also think that our brain is still like a million-year-old brain, and so the brain still has that wired in it, that kind of hunter-gatherer, look for trouble, always be on the lookout for, potential harm, seek
Hmm.
comfort, seek survival. When you do get food, eat a ton of it all at once, and then, we'll worry about our next meal, down the road. But right now, while we have this, we're just gonna eat as much as we can. And I think we see that a lot.
I think we've grown layers and layers and layers and layers on our brain, but yeah, we still have that primal base. As if that's
But
what you mean.
I don't think that's going to change.
100%. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
But real quick, I just want to add that you know eating even even 60, 70 years ago, people would they didn't intentionally fast, but it's just how they acquired food. You wouldn't always eat every single day. You were it was a huge luxury to eat 3 meals a day. Come work on the railroad. We're gonna pay you 10 cents a day and we're gonna give you a full belly 3 times a day. Like it just became modern day culture like it's nothing, and we don't even stop and think. And some people just there's a book out there, even I'm not even sure who it's by, but just the title alone, mindless eating. There's so many people who just fall into that trap of eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner because they're sort of running with they don't even know why they're running.
Yeah.
So even just
I was just
stopping and being aware and listening to your body, and oh, you know what, I'm actually not hungry, so no, I don't need to eat. Or I'm starving, I'm not gonna just have a salad because I'm trying to fit into this bathing suit. I'm starving, I'm gonna eat something, my body's telling me something.
I was just looking at the agricultural era when it began, which it was about 12,000 years ago, so about 10,000 BC. And if you think about that, right? So we were hunter gatherers like before, like from 12,000 years and prior. So that's only 12,000 years, but like the human species has been around for how many hundreds of thousands of years? So there, like we don't evolve that quickly over just 12,000 years to become like purely farming, agricultural type of species. We are still like ingrained that hunter gatherer mode. If you think about the hundred thousands of years prior to that humans have actually been hunter gatherers.
Well, I think in 1973 there was this study, and I think that it's a good example of how your body still has that primal base and capacity. This guy was 456 pounds, and under medical supervision, he had the longest fast to date, which was 382 days. I can't even I can't even imagine going 30 days without eating. This guy went over a year without eating. It's just ridiculous.
Oh, and a perfect example of autophagy, right? Because we talked about, or what they talked about in the study too, was I heard about him on the Joe Rogan podcast with Rob Wolf. And they talked about this guy, and he had no loose hanging skin at all.
Because his body's consumed the proteins that were in his skin.
Yeah, and it resumed elasticity, like his original elasticity. I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible.
If you back your body up into a corner, it will perform. But if we constantly give it luxuries, then it never has to get up and get a job, essentially, right? So when you're 456 pounds and you have a lot of excess fat and weight on your body, it is in the most basic form energy. And you wouldn't go and put more gas in your car if it's already full. So you have to think that you have to get your body using this energy. And unfortunately, it won't do that if it's going to be keep
Mhm.
if you're going to keep giving it more energy to sort through and pile away for later. So I think that's one thing that really stands out. He didn't even have loose skin. His body really consumed itself for the better, got rid of the sick and unhealthy cells or the fat cells that it was
Now, I
in
wouldn't
excess
recommend
of,
anyone
and it
go and gain
made the
that much
body
weight and try
stronger.
it, but it's amazing what the body can do. Like, like he's probably living a really unhealthy life, but then to to lose all that, I mean, you can see what fasting can do, but sustain it.
Yeah, and I think the hardest part is for people to conceptualize fasting, because the first place people start is, oh, I'm going to skip a meal. I'm going to starve myself. Like,
Uh,
that's not what it is. And I don't know about you guys, but my first introduction to fasting was, oh man, what's the term? you know what I mean. When you wake up and you do cardio, it's like when you're
Fasted
no
cardio.
fasted cardio, right? Yeah, scientific, amazingly scientific term, but somehow I couldn't even think of that. Wow. I just got so much on the brain right now to get out here in under an hour. But fasted cardio, like for bodybuilding shows. So you wake up, you wouldn't eat anything, you go do cardio for 30, 40 minutes, then you go eat, and then you go do a lift. But there are so many different ways to think of fasting. There's intermittent, there's alternate day, there's extended fasting. But it's not skipping meals. It's not calorically depleting your body. You still want to have a similar caloric intake as you would if you're doing those 3 meals, or whatever your normal diet consists of, but you don't
And
want
I think that's where
to
people,
just start eliminating meals, because then you're going to be
but I think that's
starving.
where people get in a lot of
So
trouble. Because
you're
you
trying to get
read
your
a lot
body
of
to
research on
adapt.
fasting and like overweight people, obesity, and they'll set the study up so they're fasting, but they're restricting calories, and they're seeing weight loss, but they're also seeing work like more detrimental effects on the system because the system's also getting less energy and less input. So a big thing if people are trying going to want to fast, you will lose weight if you restrict calories, but you can't start restricting crazy amount of calories just because you're not eating. I think that's a big thing that people don't know or don't realize. Because like Matt,
Yeah.
if you restricted one or say one meal in your eating time frame daily over 5 days and you went to play soccer, I would imagine you would notice the performance different and you would be like, no, I can't function
Oh,
optimally.
I would be no. I've had to increase because I noticed that my recovery rates were slowing down. I had lack of energy when I went hiking, like later in the day, because every day I'll take the dog for a couple hour hike somewhere, and I noticed I was like, man, I am not feeling it today, and I had to like, just go walk around at a park. But yeah, like if I skipped a meal, I would absolutely notice that I wouldn't get as good of a workout in. I wouldn't recover as well, and I would be hungrier earlier. So that's why I eat as much as I do, and in different ways to really try to be tactical. Like I'd like to start doing like week long fasts, but it would require me to be
Yeah.
able to. I'd have to like eat from morning to night on like a Sunday or something. I don't even know if
And
I
I
have
think
like
that's a,
the mental capacity to like keep stuffing
yeah,
my face all day
because
long.
once you like,
So,
especially
yeah.
for someone who needs to keep up like performance and muscle mass, you're consuming a lot of calories in a short amount of time and like small. I shouldn't say small meals, but like huge meals in like 30 minutes, and you're like, holy smokes.
Yeah, like I'm eating like 3 heads of broccoli on Sunday before I even eat my pasta, because I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I haven't had vegetables in a while. Like just got to make sure that you cover all your bases, and that's why there's a lot of great resources out there for people who are listening who want to kind of look into this a little bit more or start doing it for themselves. And I think one of the first ones that I did was The Complete Guide to Fasting by Dr. Jason Fung with Jimmy Moore. It's a good little resource book. It's somewhere like a textbook. You go to the back and look at the index, and it's got some recipe ideas in there and stuff like that. Because and different studies and all the benefits, and there really is a benefit to coupling the two together, like a ketogenic diet and fasting. But I'm trying to also be able to perform, and we do talk about how if you're on a pure ketogenic diet, you would really notice a
And
huge
also, I think it's
decline
funny
in your
is people don't realize that they're
your energy
fasting every
output,
day.
essentially your performance.
Like
That
from the day you're born, like I was saying earlier, like we sleep every night. That's fasting. It's not prolonged. Like our body's designed to sleep. If you go without sleep, you have adverse effects. Like you're going to stop functioning eventually. Sleep is like a thing that we need for our body to regenerate overnight.
Well, I got an argument for that though, because neither of you guys have kids. I've got two under the age of 4, and
I have a fur animal.
that's right. We talked about this. I remember you do have a fur animal, but he doesn't count right now. Um, but when kids are born, right, from age 0 to like 1, they sleep for like 3 hour blocks, and then they get up and they cry and they want to eat like every 3 hours, essentially, like on average. Like some are less, some are more, but let's say average is about every 3 hours.
And then we get them to change to our schedules.
They are, like that. That is nature at its best.
Or
That is what's going
fur
on.
child.
So my argument here is fasting really, like, overnight while we sleep, is that
Mhm.
really how it's supposed to be, or is it just, do the babies just end up having to adapt to the lifestyle that we have, essentially been accustomed to?
Yeah, I don't think fasting. I don't think we were necessarily meant to only sleep like in a short, like a long period for one part of the day. But I don't think, like, I see where you're going with it, and I completely agree. But I still think fasting is a separate issue. I think it does need a rest period. I think that's kind of what Menchie's talking about. And I think that that 8 to 9 hour window, or probably if you have two real kids, it's probably like a 5 to 6 hour window. Let's be honest.
Mike, I almost wonder with that, and I love that you brought that up. But it's like if you took a baby and
Yeah.
didn't feed it and let it sleep for 9 hours, like what would the growth of it be? Like, do you think its growth would be as good as if it fed every 3 hours? Like, that's a study that would be interesting. Probably never will happen. We're two different organisms. Like, a growing child, like that, is going to get X amount of calories and nutrients.
It'll never happen. Yeah, it'll never happen. One thing that you realize when you have kids too is the metabolic processes run so fast. Like they're on overdrive. Like my kids, if they get a cut on their arm, or it heals in literally like a day or two. Right? If I get a cut, it's like 3 weeks. If a 70-year-old gets a cut, it's like a year. But like they're like Wolverine. Like their body just turns over so quick. But yeah, they're. I mean, when you hear your baby's heart rate for the first time in the hospital, like the average like beats per minute is somewhere around like 140 to 150. Like that's normal for a fetus, like for a baby who's unborn. For us, what is average? We think like 60 to 80, something like that, right? So I mean, it's pretty remarkable when you think about it in that way, how quickly things are turning over for babies. So that feeding pattern or that feeding time frame doesn't seem so odd when you think about it in those terms.
So it's almost like their metabolic process is over trumping that fasting stage for growth, for that thing to survive. Yeah. Damn.
Right, right. Like they're literally like, well, so what in a growth rate
Yeah.
phase, a child from 0 to 3 grows. You will grow faster from the age of 0 to 3 and develop from 0 to 3 faster than any other 3 year period in your entire life. So think about it. A baby is born, cannot move, cannot do anything but like be a blob of skin and bone on lying on their back when they're like a month old, to like by the age of 3 being able to run, jump, talk, have a conversation, curse at you. you know, my kids don't curse at me, but like some some do. But like that level and that progression of development in that 3 year time frame is massive, and so rapid, more rapid than any other time period.
And that's why they need so many. They need so many feeding times. They need a lot of nutrients and they need a lot of calories because they're growing. Their body's anabolic the whole time.
Yeah. So upon further review, yeah, upon further review, it's justified.
For
Yeah.
But I think as you get older and you age, your body's going to change. Your metabolic processes are going to change. Your hormone levels are going to change. Your priorities of your body's functions are going to change. Um, in modern society, eating 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, never letting that digestive system get a rest period, get stronger, improve. You're basically being completely catabolic to your own digestive system, which is the way that you interact with the world around you when you put food in your system, or when cells are attacking your cells on skin level. Your immune system's functioning. So if you aren't letting that system improve, then you're just opening yourselves up for getting sick, dying earlier, disease, infection. So talking about sleep, and being in a rest period for your digestive system is good when you're a baby, sure. Um, because also we screw things up and we give baby food rather than help them build strong jaws and give them real food anyway, and actually have their digestive systems maybe actually have to process things. But I think as we age, we have to um, make sure we're strengthening all of our systems. I would say there's huge benefits and purpose to anybody completing a 24-hour fast.
Yeah, so it's more like once you're out of like the growth stages of life, like fasting's appropriate. And you're going to get that, while you sleep it, then you can go longer into like, these 12, 16, 20, 24. I would not recommend anyone, I would even say maybe what under the age of 18 to really hit fasting hard because like you need quality growth and development. You need to have optimal function. Like you still need sleep and all that stuff, but I don't think there's no need to start prescribing that stuff at that development.
You're right. You're right. I don't think you need to even worry about fasting unless you're at the age where your body's over puberty.
But I think you're getting that overnight as you sleep. Because what do they say? 8 to 10 for kids in puberty, and then as we go older, we need what 7 to 9. And some research out there says that some people only need 5 to 6. I mean, I think it depends, but
Isn't it true? I should Google this before I say it, but isn't it true that your metabolism slows down at night? Is that fact? Can that be confirmed by either of you two geniuses?
I mean, it might your metabolic process might slow down.
Yeah, I don't know. I know your resting heart rate slows down, and hopefully HRV is increasing, but
And
outside of that, yeah, I can't tell you.
is yeah, I just Googled it and it said a study published in 2009, and they talked about how when you sleep, your BMI slows down. During deeper sleep, slow wave sleep, your metabolic rate is at its lowest. During the first half, participants sleep and their metabolism dropped as much as
Yeah, that's
35%.
what I'm saying too.
So I can see how that kind of couples with that being your period of rest for your digestive system. Sorry, I'm just like all over the place. I want to make sure we talk about everything that has to do about fasting. So I think one thing that has really helped me, because you were talking about how the dairy really bothered you. I'm definitely lactose
All
intolerant, but
right.
sugars for me, sugar was like, that's why I really had to make sure like I would peel my bananas when they were green and buy them green so they had a really low sugar content because I still wanted fruit. I still wanted that quick energy like before workouts and after workouts when I was eating 3 meals a day and having food throughout the day. Um, but yeah, sugars would really make me symptomatic for colitis, and without getting into too much detail, it just would make me bleed internally. We'll just leave it at that. I would have to be really specific about like I could only have red meat maybe once a week, and I had to make sure that I use a pressure cooker for my oats because I think the the high lectin content would cause issues, and couldn't if I was gonna have a banana that day, it means I couldn't have an apple later in the day, and just like little things like that where I had to really tweak my diet because kind of the little things would kind of spark, and I called it like kind of clawing at the digestive wall and just opening up uh, the blood gates. Haha. But so with fasting, I've slowly kind of like at first I would just eat really clean, chicken breast or chicken thighs and some white rice and a veggie. And then I started to throw some fruit in and I started to play around with throwing some stuff that was tough for me to digest when I wasn't fasting. And I was really shocked at how my body just ate it like a champ. um wow, just flowing with puns today, but it's all they're all food related. I can't help it. But so that idea of hormesis is the idea that essentially if you just lived in a bubble all your life and you never gave your body little bits of stress, it would never be able to grow, adapt, and become stronger. The same way that a um, vaccination works. They're just giving you a little bit of the disease before you catch it one random time, so that your body is essentially prepared when if it sees it, because it's built up antibodies for it. So low exposures to toxins or low amounts of stress into the system, so that the system can respond and get better and improve and strengthen. So I now, whereas before I would eat super clean and then fast for anywhere from 12 to 24 hours. Now I'm much more comfortable eating like a burger with cheese on a challah bread bun. Shout out to my fellow Jews out there as well. Challah, yeah, things heavily used with. I make sure it's all good source stuff. I don't want foreign objects in my body. I don't want they're heavily produced with pesticides or heavily processed with other chemicals or preservatives. That stuff is foreign to your system. That's different from giving your body other toxins such as lectins or sugars or dairy, so that your body can kind of replenish these enzymes and replenish its functioning and digestive bacteria to aid
I think.
you in processing food. But yeah, I think that's another misstep
Well, I mean,
of
you
fasting
can.
is people think they have
You
to eat
totally can,
super super clean. They'll fast and then have like a
right?
salad with. Yeah, you can. I'm not saying it's bad, but I think you should also have your body prepared and yeah.
I also think another way or where people get in trouble with fasting is you read research and there's good and then there's like side effects of fasting, and one of them I found was like the mTOR receptor actually declines with fasting. So it was saying that if you don't get adequate protein while you eat after your fast, that you can have those receptors. Yeah, either or. But they were saying more coming out of it, that if you don't have adequate protein or branch chains, aminos, or any kind of aminos, that it can throw off your fat free mass. So anything muscle mass, and that's where the study showed some people were starting to fall in the lean body mass.
Well, so my question would be then, have you ever had any kind of like simple carbohydrate to break
Yep.
your fast?
Yep.
And if you have you noticed a difference from when you eat that after breaking a long fast versus a steak?
A steak with broccoli and potato, or yeah, I do try to make my first step something good, because I feel like my body is like reaching and searching for
Okay.
nutrients, but I do make it like, I don't, not I specifically would rather have chicken thighs than chicken breast,
Yeah.
like I.
So I have. But I've only done an 18-hour fast is the longest I've done. But I've done it on a regular basis, so I can speak on eating a high like protein, high fat meal to break my fast and a simple carb complex. So the carb glucose, or should I say insulin sensitivity, is very high when you are coming at the end of the fast. So for me, when I've had like a high fat, high protein meal, I feel fantastic. Like I feel really good. I feel balanced. But if I've ever had like any kind of glucose or carbohydrate, like primarily, like if I like say I grab like I don't know, a piece of bread, yeah, or cookie or some sort of carbohydrate to break my fast with, I literally feel like I'm on crack. That sugar just goes, it goes in, yeah, it shuttles in like faster than the Aerosmith ride at MGM Grand Studios. Like 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds, and I am like bouncing off the walls like bananas. I do really feel the difference, and so I think that's an important thing. And for me, like I said, it's just purely anecdotal and just from personal experience. But yeah, but that being said, like I think that it's important to keep that mindful. Like had I
I
slopped a whole
bet.
bunch of like grass-fed butter on that piece of bread and maybe had some bacon with it, or maybe it would have not been as like severely
just wired because your body just consumes that energy, right?
No, I don't think it was that. It was it was very short-lived because think about how my body just like cannibalized that, like just ate it up and was like there and gone and shuttled it into my muscles and used it immediately. And then I felt like, ugh, I felt like, crap,
No, so is mine. So is mine, just
So,
from experience.
yeah. So, I mean, that's just, again, purely anecdotal, just in my own experience. I can't speak to if that's what other people have experienced as well, but when you think about the physiological systems and everything that's going on there, as different nutrients are being exposed after a long fast, it makes kind of sense. Why my body reacted the way it did.
Even though it's anecdotal, I would even say I would hypothesis or theory that most people would have that same reaction. Like if you're gonna put
Yeah,
it
and I
like straight, like say after a fast you have straight high simple carbohydrates, you're gonna get that spike really fast, and
yeah.
your body's gonna be metabolize that and go, hey, I need this. You've gone without this. Like send receptors, pick this up, use this. Compared to where it's like protein and fats, all right, digest a little bit longer, still create that insulin influx, but it's not like a crazy where it's like uptaking glucose into the cells to like store for glycogen later. It's like, okay, we can change this process a little bit different. So I would be right on board with your anecdotal findings on that.
Well, if you think about it, the way the energy systems works, how much easier it is to have for your body
Burn through.
to burn essentially those, um, those simple carbs. Like if you starve a dog and then you go put a bowl of molasses down, it's going to take him so long to
Yeah,
process it and eat it. But if you put a bowl of kibble down, it's going to be gone in 30 seconds just because of how easy it
there's
is
a lot out there.
to process. Um, but I'm gonna include all the studies that we talked about today in the show notes. I think that'll help for people, just to kind of read further into what we're talking about and know we're not full of crap. But so there's two other things I want to mention. There's a podcast with Ben Greenfield, and I'll link that in the show notes as well. And specifically, the whole episode's great, but specifically the fasting, I have it marked at 40 minutes in and 50 minutes in, and then there's another one which again I'll link in the bio of this episode that is with Peter Attia. And this guy is a brilliant doctor, and he talks about fasting, and he specializes in helping people with longevity. He actually just came out with his own podcast himself, and again, the whole episode's great, but the fasting is marked out from 54 minutes in to an hour and 12 minutes in. So I'm going to post again all these articles and the YouTube and all these resources in the show notes of this episode because I think this is some really valuable information for people to take the time to dive into themselves and just kind of like Mike and I are talking some of this all these experiences, you know that's how it starts. It is just kind of trying different things and learning the feedback of your body, um, and trying things in a healthy manner. Like the way I started fasting, I'm sure Mike, you might have tried something similar. So all I did was try from uh, Friday dinner. I don't have to really work out on the weekends. I just do Monday through Friday, so lower activity. So I just fasted from Friday dinner to I saw how long I could go in the morning on Saturday until I had to eat, and eventually it was pushed back further and further until I could make it a full 24 hours, and then I tried it once in the week, and it's just about getting your body and your mind adapted to it.
And I think that's the easiest way is doing it starting overnight and then trailing it into the morning. Where some people be like, "Oh, I'm gonna have a meal at 6 a.m. and not eat till 6 a.m. the next day." It's like you could do it absolutely, but I think it's people get more tripped up, especially when they're in the office and people
Yeah.
have food or they're at dinner. Where like if you can stop eating at 7 at night and then wake up, say you wake up at 6:37 in the morning, you're already at what 12 hours, and then you keep going.
Yeah. And then people and most people are just like getting up and getting ready for work. They're so like preoccupied, right? Like they almost don't even think they have time to eat.
But I do think people get a lot confused with fasting, and think that they need to or they should try to. I mean, I highly recommend it. There's a lot of research out there, but I think people we're starting to find out now is a lot of research are done, and you've probably heard this in Greenfields and Atia is on mice, where they might be a little bit different than us. So we're seeing that prolonged fast for the human body is actually more beneficial than like a 12, 16 hour fast. I mean, still going to have good effects, but they're seeing a little bit greater effects. Now, they don't know.
When you go from like 16 to 24.
Yeah. Yeah. Or 20 plus, because like they're doing, say, like 16 hours or 24 hours in mice, but they're a lot smaller than us. We're a bigger organism, so we might need more time, but they're also seeing like you said earlier, that 300 plus day fast, you're still getting the benefits. I mean, the body is going to survive. And what's cool, as I was reading also, is you start going into fasting, and they kind of theorize that your body's going to create more reactive oxygen
Yeah.
species because you're basically under attack, which occurs and happens. But your body, as you fast, it actually helps increase these metabolites in these enzymes that actually help as like
Hmm.
antioxidants in the body, so it builds its own defense system against that. It's not like you're depleting your body, you're starving itself. Like your body's built, your body's going to take that, build up a
Yeah, I
resistance,
think.
be like, okay, I have to combat
Sorry. Go
this
ahead. Go
now
ahead.
to survive.
Yeah, that's the thing is, kind of back to some of the other podcasts we've talked about. Would you rather be the warrior in the garden or the gardener in the war? And it is a survival trait
Yeah.
to seek comfort, but um, modern society has led us to be too convenient and too comfortable, and we need that yin and yang. We
Yeah.
need that dichotomy to make things, better. Essentially, you need that balance. You can't just have all the food and everything you want to eat. You can't just eat, cookies and sugary things that you enjoy all the time. It has to be a balance, and same thing with um, just improving your body and making it a strong version of itself, and increasing your stem cell production and improving your functions of your body to help with longevity. You have to have periods of rest and convenience and laying on the couch
I-
and hanging out,
yeah.
but you also have to have periods where your body is stressed and it has to perform, and exercise. And we talk about it all the time, but even on this cellular level.
It's all about the cell. I think a lot of people get in trouble with fasting is they try to use it as a weight loss tactic first, rather than like this is going to help my immune system, my longevity. This is going to help my gut. Rather they're like, I've heard it over and over. I need to fast to lose some weight, so I'm going to start. And I'm like, yeah, you're going to see that, but you also have to respect the human body and what it's going to do while you're fasting, and put in good food. Yeah, put in good food after the fast, so that you're not all of a sudden you're fasting and then you're saying, well, I'm restricting calories. That's great.
Exactly.
Let me just put
Have to
in
listen and
calories that I'm
respect
used
your
to eating,
body.
and it's still poor quality food. And you're just taking that, hey, that gut just got healed a little bit. Let me destroy it a little bit more. It's like a roundabout circle. But I tell people you shouldn't use it for weight loss. It will aid in that. You should use it as a tactic to help build your body to be stronger and a healthier version.
Yeah, and if you're trying to make permanent changes anyway, you want to strengthen and improve your metabolism. And
Yeah.
sometimes the way that people do it is they not only do they starve themselves and fast, but they also don't replenish calorically and or appropriate. They don't replenish appropriately with
Yeah.
calories or nutrients, so they get hormonally depleted. Their metabolism gets depleted, and they actually weaken their system rather than strengthen and improve your system. Like I think the best of advice I can give for anyone who's thinking about fasting is adjust your mindset about fasting. You're not starving yourself. You're not fasting. It's shortened eating windows. Um, I think you should be 80/20 with your nutrients and your choices, your food selection. Make sure it's all good, like semi good or good sourced stuff, but let yourself live a little. Let yourself have little cravings and fulfill those cravings. It's going to make it much more sustainable in the long run. But also listen to your body. Your body isn't going to be able to go from eating 3 meals a day to just 1 meal a day overnight. So, there's going to be times where you can do 12 hours. There's going to be times where you can only do 8 hours. There's going to be times when you can do 16 hours, but learn from it. Figure out why you only made it 8 hours. Figure out what played a role into you getting that to that furthest you've ever been before, and use it as feedback. That's the best way. In the end of the day, everyone's body, everyone's system, you're gonna have to figure out what works for you, and it is gonna be hard work, and just ain't no way to do it but to do it.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, everyone's different. Like I could probably do 24 what you're doing, but I think it's a little bit more challenging for me. So I take a little bit more of approach of very healthy eating and staying on that, which is still very beneficial for the human body. And I don't want people to be like, you have to fast. You don't.
Yeah, exactly. And still and totally different priorities, because I have autoimmune dysfunction, so I make that more of a priority. So yeah, which is totally fine.
Yeah, and I've tried fasting and I've done it, and I think people are going to get, like Mike said, different responses from their body and see what works and see what doesn't. And I mean, we're all different. We have different enzymes. Well, we have similar ones, but they all run at different rates. They fire differently. We have more, we have less, and I think that's why there's not like a one cookie cutter, one size fits all like fasting program. Like it doesn't exist. And I think that's what I want people to get out of this is fasting is very beneficial for your body, for longevity, for overall health, but it's not like a 24 hours is the exact number, exact rep range that you're going to get that's optimal. It changes from person to person.
Yeah. And for me, you guys hear me okay? For me to just to add to that, one thing we haven't really touched on, and as you guys know, I love the psychological side of all of this, is just essentially what fasting does for you from a mental standpoint. It creates discipline, right? And discipline is that one kind of key skill that we need to have in order to be able to accomplish something that's really hard, which, eating healthy, fasting, being able to take care of your body in an optimal way requires discipline. And fasting allows you to kind of differentiate between what is really starvation, like true starvation, and hunger. I mean, we know that the body can go multiple weeks without food on just a water fast and be able to survive. So, what is 24 hours? It's not going to kill anybody. Like, I'm not a doctor here saying this, but 24 hours is not going to be detrimental to your health. If anything, it's going to be extremely beneficial in that sense, especially if you're pre diabetic or diabetic. Um, with that being said, like, I think that, being able to differentiate, like going to that place where my mind is just telling me that I'm hungry because I'm conditioned to eat at specific hours throughout the day, and being able to overcome that, the discipline that you build from that, the mental fortitude that you built from that, shouldn't go without being said of how important just that aspect of this whole process is. And I think if there's any message I can send, for me, that was the biggest takeaway when I actually went forth and did some sort of intermittent fasting process, was I started to be able to differentiate what the difference was between really being starved and really like, okay, I'm just hungry. I don't need anything right now. I'm just hungry because my body's conditioned to really eat at these times. But once I got past that, the benefits that I reaped, not only on my um, you know, uh, autoimmune disease functioning better, but also just the mental clarity, the cognitive kind of enhancement that I received from it. There was just so many more benefits that came out of it. But I would say the strongest for me was just that mental fortitude that was kind of forged from it.
Love it. That about wraps it up today. Thanks for listening, everybody. Write us an email if you have any questions or comments. Um, Subscribe to our channel. Leave us a review. Again, we'd love to hear feedback from our listeners. And stay tuned next week.